Hey there everybody, Mazrock here, and today we're doing tank tips chasing stats. Now, as you may know, the Onyx annulet is going to be receiving a 40% nerf to the damage and healing capabilities of the ring itself, which is something that a lot of tanks have been asking for, but now leaves pretty much every tank in the position of having to find a second ring. And one of the things that I keep getting asked about is a lot of different stat values and things like that, and how to go after stats for tanks. Before we do get into it though, please do like, comment, and subscribe, and it goes such a long way towards helping out the channel. There is a Patreon link down below with exclusive early access content, exclusive content, lots of good stuff. I am doing this full time now, so any help that, we can get, thank you very kindly. There's a Discord link as well. Join a wonderful community full of great people, and a Twitch link as well. Come on by, watch me stream. And lastly, there is merchandise. You can get the Blood DK, I'm the Healer Now, tee, sweatshirt, hoodie, long sleeve, Sad Bear. I'm working on Brewmaster merch. We got, lots of good stuff. Go there, check it out. All right, so chasing stats. Now, the add-on that I'm going to be using here, I thank Dratnos for this one because he showed it off in a video and I fell in love with it. And the stuff I was using before where it just really wasn't as good, it's called True Stat Values. And what this does is this shows you, when you hover over your character screen, how much stat you have and when you're going to start incurring a penalty. So for example, on my Protection Warrior here, I have 4,727 haste, and once I reach 5,100 and above, I will start incurring a 10% penalty. Now, each tank is a little bit different with how they like their stats. And each one does everything a little bit differently, right? And we'll go over some of the other tanks in a bit, but at first we'll kind of focus on Prot Warrior and do the little breakdown. Now, as you can see here, 4,700, let's just say 4,700 haste, but I also like to run into the fray. Does that mean that because I run into the fray that I'm losing a penalty? No, because the stat, loss that you might get from more haste stat doesn't apply to the base percentages that you get. So any percentage that you get above, so for example, into the fray will give you 2 to 10% in increments of 2s, depending on the enemies or allies around you. That is something that is added on and doesn't get hit by the stat cap. So, but let's say I were to get a trinket like that would give me a 2,000 haste value point to it, for example, that would start incurring penalties because that's giving me the exact haste stat itself, right? The rate, it's all about that rate, the true rating, and not what is incurred in the percentages itself. Now, does that mean that because I go over my cap that it's bad? Not necessarily at all, and every tank is a little bit different. And how you want to play that and how you want to chase those secondaries is up to you. For example, Critical Strike is going to give me more damage and more parry. Is that something I'm going to want? Mastery is Critical Block for a Protection Warrior, so it's something that is not as valued. Just the fact that the Mastery is there is nice, but it's very RNG based, right? And it's not something that you can always kind of work with. Critical Strike rating, I know I'm going to get a damage increase, and I know it's going to increase my parry, so there's the twofold. Mastery is attack, power, and critical block, and versatility. Versatility is the triple stat of damage and healing done, as well as damage reduction. So you can kind of start making your own decisions. So for example, while I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to replace my Onyx Amulet ring, I know for a fact I'm not going to need anything with a lot of haste on it, and I do have some pieces here that I can still upgrade that are going to be giving me that haste along the way. So I can opt for something like maybe this Bloodied Wedding Band that I got the other day. That's little verse big mastery and improve my defensive capabilities. Like, this is purely, it's got the avoidance as well, but it's purely a defensive trinket. If I want something more offensive, I can go with something with like a little bit more critical strike on it and play around with my stats like that to really try and get the most that I can while I'm, trying, do I want to be more offensive? Do I want to be more defensive? Now, if we come over here and we look at the monk, the monk is a little bit different, where I don't want haste at all. Haste doesn't do a whole lot for me, right? Where I get a lot more value out of other ones. So with critical strike rating here, now I have 4,009 critical strike rating, and there is some room before I incur a penalty, But one of the things that I need to factor in is the fact that I currently have 2 weapons that I'm going to be able to get buzzing runes on, and I can account for 620 critical strike rating to be applied to this at all times. So with that, I'm sitting at 4,600 and a little bit more, but I could afford a little bit more before my penalty if I'm willing to go for other stats, right? Here we see versatility. I'm sitting at 5,256, and it's going to start happening soon where I'm going to have to kind of start looking at that versatility cap with the gear upgrades that I'm going to be getting, and of course mastery. So here I actually equipped the Scalebane Signet, because with the mastery and the elusive brawler and the tier, I know for a fact that I do want a little bit more dodge and a little bit more sturdiness is nice, but I could have also easily opted for a crit versatility ring and kind of min-max those stats a little bit and then stopped worrying about versatility on some other gear and really work that through. Now, I know for me with Monk, the way that I'm going to be doing it is I'm going to be trying to get as close to cap as I can on critical strike and versatility as I kind of finish up my gearing process. And then I'm going to work in the mastery while avoiding haste. And that's what I'm going to be trying to do with my rings. I'm actually really happy with the Scalebane Signet. I haven't upgraded it yet. I'm gonna farm out a hero one. I still want a Forge Storm. I've just been incredibly unlucky. But the Signet also drops in that same dungeon, so I'm not willing to put in the mats into it yet, where I can farm a hero version of it a little bit better, right? So that's kind of going around. But those are some of the those are some of the things that you have to put forward in your head and make those decisions as you're going along and trying to move forward. So here we're going to cover the Paladin just a little bit. Paladin's a weird case where Paladin really likes haste a lot, and of course it loves mastery. Now here, mastery, as I've been gearing and I've been swapping gear stuff around, if you may have been following this channel, my Paladin just got like three brand new pieces of tier in 1 week, where I was running the full old set, so a lot of my stats got mixed around, and I'm not quite where I want to be with my stats yet, but this is a perfect time to cover this, right? So on my Paladin, I have 4,600 haste, and I'm also running the haste pants, but Paladin loves haste so much that the 10% penalty isn't as bad for it as, the question you have to ask yourself is getting a 10% penalty on this specific secondary going to be less worth it than getting full value on critical strike, mastery, or versatility? Now, right now, in my very specific case, I'm nowhere near my mastery cap. And I lost a lot of mastery on my gear, so I'm going to be focusing really heavily on mastery rings coming up to try and make sure that I can bump that up as fast as possible, because I really need it, right? I really want the mastery. Those are the 2 most important stats to me. Then I can start focusing on critical strike and versatility along the way. But that's my thought process for Paladin. All right, let's talk about DK here a little bit. Now, DK, as you can see with my haste, I am so, I'm there, right? I have 27 haste points before I start incurring a penalty, and I know I have upgrades along the way, right? My pants are still a little low, and they have haste on them. And I do have some other things that I can kind of move around and get with what I want. Now, the particular thing with Blood DK is there's not a stat that Blood DK doesn't like right now. Critical Strike to increase the parry is really nice, as well as gain some extra damage. Mastery for really big blood shields, and considering how much physical damage there are in these keys, we really like Mastery. And of course, Versatility is just an all-around good stat, but it's a little bit less valuable than some of the others. So one of the things that I want to be doing right now, as I'm kind of working through, is actually getting rid of some of my Critical Strike for Mastery. So I want to find like a little haste, a big haste little Mastery ring, right? To kind of complement this and move things along as we're kind of going around. But that's some of my thought process for Blood. Now we can start talking about Bear a little bit. Now Bear, I'm also in the same point where I am really starting to get to that point with my haste where I need to make a serious decision. Do I want to play more offensive? Obviously, there's defensive benefits to more haste, or do I want to try and go more offensive, right? Do I want to go with versatility? Do I want to go with a little bit more mastery? And I've got the slot to go and choose. So there are some rings that I have been looking at and trying to decide what I want for more stats. And I'm definitely thinking that some sort of combination of versatility mastery is going to be just purely offensive, but I can also go with critical strike, which is a little bit low for me, and help increase my damage. Unfortunately, when you're looking at some of the stats for bear, you know, I don't get dodge or parry from critical strike. It's purely offensive. So how much am I willing to sacrifice some potential defense for just more damage? And these are some of the things that, you know, we got to stop and think about. Lastly, we're going to go and cover vengeance here real quick. I thought about doing this just a couple of tanks, but I figured, hey, let's kind of go through my thought process on all 6, and maybe this will kind of, you know, help you out and help you decide which one you want to go with and choose yourself when you're, you know, deciding on your rings. All right, and here we are on vengeance. Now, when you can see here, I'm actually over my cap by 249 points, but vengeance really, really likes haste, so I'm in that decision of, do I remove some of it to just be under the cap? I still have some upgrades to go where haste would, you know, is not going to be a problem, and focus more on critical strike and versatility. My verse is very, very low, and I think this is something I'm going to be focusing on. I'm definitely thinking of getting a small crit big verse ring when I'm kind of going, just to increase my tankiness, just because of how much, you know, vengeance really loves haste. It just speeds everything up and makes everything go that much quicker, which is kind of what you want, but you also don't want to incur too much of a penalty. So for my demon hunter, I'm thinking of a little crit big verse ring, because like more, you know, mastery is more of a better raid stat than mythic plus. So I'm thinking of really pumping up that versatility along the way while slowly peeling back my haste. But those are some of the thought processes around gearing tanks, chasing those stats, because we have access to so many secondaries right now. And again, for haste, I could actually swap out one of my howling runes for a buzzing rune, which will give me critical strike instead and allow me to not go over that cap. So use your files, use consumables, and factor those into your stat weights. But when you're gearing as well, one little thing, most tanks, aside from Brewmaster, haste is the first important thing you need to get up as high as possible as you can get before you start focusing on the other ones, because you could have like a 30 verse prot warrior, but that shit feels terrible if you have 7% haste, right? So you really want to focus on getting your main haste stat up first, and then focus on building your other ones up. But that's 5 out of 6 really like haste. The other one, Brewmaster, get everything else. But I just wanted to put this forward because a lot of people are asking me about secondary stats and things like that and what to go after. Again, the add-on is called True Stat Values, and this is where you can really kind of start min-maxing, because it's going to be important. I don't remember a time where we've gotten secondary stats so quickly, right? We were not this buff at the end of Shadowlands, which is really, really nice. So, but these are the things that you're going to have to start paying attention to and going into and being like, okay, what do I want? Do I want more offensive? Do I want more defensive? Am I feeling squishy? What do I need to buff up? And these are things that you have to ask yourself. There are no sims for survivability. So you have to go in and test them, right? Is just having an extra 5% verse, is this going to be better for me? Is having more mastery going to feel better for me? What are the best consumables for me? Now, yes, Howling Rune is probably one of the best consumables for Vengeance. But at the same time, do I want that much haste? Do I need that much haste? Do I need something else? And once you start breaking these caps, these are the things you kind of have to start looking forward and changing that you can min-max yourself. So these are just what I wanted to put forward. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Have yourself a good one. Happy tanking.